Hey everyone, welcome to the Rochford Files tonight with your host, Andrew Rochford, coming to you live from the Mile Highland City. And we are on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And we've had a bit of a longer break between the last shows, especially my most viewed stream to date. Thanks to my previous guest, Marcus Cage, for being of the Political Matrix for being on last Thursday. But we've got ourselves another high quality guest in for now. Now it's time to bring in the host of Extra Bulla, Uncle Warren.
Hello there. That's high praise calling me high quality, man. I like that. That's nice. That's top shelf.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Well, I'm
how
sure
are
that
you?
at 6'4", you're able to reach the top shelf with ease.
Yeah, I'm that guy. I used to work at a grocery store. Well, I worked at grocery stores, and the vertically challenged that I worked with would say, hey, "Can you get that off the thing? There's the thing." So, yeah, that's my job. I'm the top shelf guy. This
And
is
it
cool.
and you're
Can,
and it's funny because even though I'm only 5'7", there's times where you could still be the tallest person around and still get asked to reach that same top shelf as well. It's like, oh,
right?
I gotta jump up and grab it.
You know what's messed up though. It's like if you ask someone who is vertically challenged and say, "Hey, can you get that off the bottom shelf for me?" Because that's a long way down, and they'll look at you like, uh, like like you just asked them to eat poop or something. I'm like, no, dude, that's just I get the top, you get the bottom. That's how we collaborate. That's working together. But it doesn't work like that. People are just
So
rude.
were you able to dunk back in your athletic peak?
Uh, Not a basketball. I could dunk a tennis ball, but I couldn't dunk a basketball. I had kind of tinier hands. They're a little bit bigger now since I've been working out. Um, I do want to say that I'm highly impressed with your musical open there. I have never heard a club version of the Rochford Files theme, and now I have, and I can die a happy man. So
Yeah, I found a site that remixed that Rockford Files theme music.
that's so awesome. I used to watch the Rockford Files back when I was a puppy, and I love that show. Um, and then when I found out you had a show called the Rochford Files, I was like, wait a minute, is that a tie-in? Is that a? And then I heard the music, and it was like it all came together like a delicious like ingredients in a delicious soup. It was wonderful. So
Yeah,
thank you for that.
yeah, that's what I was going for. And when your name is only one letter off from that famous TV show.
I know. Well, not a lot of people know about the Rockford Files anymore. I mean, unless they have like Me TV or something like that, or they're like kind of long in the tooth like I am. It's cool. It's nice to know that younger people know that and respect it. They respect the art. Respect the art.
Yeah, these days they're more likely to know that there's like a Rockford, Illinois, rather than that show.
I've been to Rockford, Illinois, as a matter of fact. I've actually spent a night in Rockford, Illinois. I was visiting some friends in Minnesota, and I was driving up from Mississippi, and I got to Rockford. It was getting pretty late, and I said, "Okay, well, I'm just going to crash here." And then I went the rest of the way up to Duluth. No, actually, I went to where did I go to? It's somewhere in southern Minnesota. I want to say. Anyway, but nice people up there. Very flat country though. Have you ever been to Illinois?
I haven't been anywhere east of Colorado yet.
Really? There's a whole world waiting for you, and then a lot of it's flat.
Yeah, so far I've mainly been to LA area, Vegas a couple times, Seattle, Victoria, driven through Utah and Arizona. New Mexico once, yeah, had to.
We went
But that's it.
when me and a oh go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that's it for my traveling so far.
Me and a buddy. I used to live in L.A. Back in moved out there in 2003, and me and a buddy we moved from Mississippi. We took the southern route, so we went through Houston, and then down through San Antonio, and then we went up through New Mexico. We went to Roswell. That was pretty cool. And then someplace, I think it was in New Mexico, we saw Billy the Kid's grave. That was pretty cool. Apparently, they've been trying to steal Billy the Kid's body, so they have this like reinforcement cage over the grave, right? And we thought that was pretty cool. Like somebody tried to steal his body. And yeah, and then we went through Nevada. We went to Vegas. We went over the Hoover Dam. We went to Area 51, or at least outside of Area 51. That was pretty cool. And then we went to LA, and I was there for about 5 years. So I miss the weather out there. It's nice.
Yeah, so were you familiar with like Oxnard, Santa Barbara type area?
I've been around that area.
That
We
was
went up
mainly where I
to
spent my time over there the few times I went.
where is the Winchester Mansion? You know where that is? That's somewhere around there, isn't it? Or is no, is Oxnard? Is that more Inland Empire?
No, that's like it's pretty much between Ventura and Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay. I think I may
Oxnard's
have been up
the
that way.
training camp site of the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They don't train in Dallas in that heat, in that miserable Texas heat. I
No.
mean,
There was one year the Saints had training camp in Oxnard instead.
I'm a huge Saints fan, by the way. For a long time, almost 40 years. So anything Saints related, I'm like a dog at the window at Thanksgiving supper. I'm like, I want to see more. Put it in my mouth. Um, yeah. So, but I
So
could talk about sports too
yeah, I got
much.
the NBA draft lottery on right in front of me, and your Pelicans may have a decent chance of moving up in the draft lottery.
I know, right? I was well. I got to be fair. I was a Bulls fan for a while in the 80s and 90s, and then I guess you could say I was a bandwagon fan because once Jordan left, I was like, eh. I couldn't even tell you who plays for the Bulls now, but yeah, now I pull for the Pelicans. Although it's been a while since I've actually consistently watched basketball. I used to a lot. Back when Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, around that era, I used to watch it like a whole bunch and just loved it. College basketball too. It was great.
Yeah, there are definitely some different times back in like the 90s and early 2000s when I first started to watch growing up. And the Pelicans aren't going to be moving up. They're stuck at 8.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll get somebody good at 8. You never know. Probably not.
Yeah.
If I like the team, they probably won't do well. So poor me. Um, yeah. So, are you a Denver Nuggets fan? I'm
Yes.
assuming you are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What? How are your Nuggets doing? I know it's the playoffs now, but I mean, are
First
they a good
got
team?
eliminated in 5 games to the Warriors a couple weeks ago.
Oh, but they made it to the playoffs, though, right? That's pretty good.
Yeah, Nikola Jokic took the team to a 6 seed without his second and third best players, so and got the second MVP back to back.
I have the Brooklyn Nets are literally like 2 blocks away from me, and they pulled a Lakers this year. They was like
Yep.
supposed to be big money team, and then
Hey Kelly.
oh, what's up, Kelly? Yeah, and they did not do well at all. So you know, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
It's yeah, it was I don't know. That's why I guess that's probably why I don't watch too much basketball anymore, because I don't want to get disappointed. Um you know what I mean? I'm easily disappointed. Um
Although a recent guest on my show, Nairi Holmes, is probably pretty happy because his Sacramento Kings did move up in the draft lottery.
oh nice. Didn't the Kings used to be pretty good like a few years back? What happened?
Pretty much when they once they had to end that Chris Webber, Mike Bibby type of era, that's when they never been able to recover because they haven't made the playoffs in over 16 years.
Mm, that's terrible. Yeah, I know. It was like they were bad, and then they were good for like 2 seconds, and then they were bad again.
Yes,
Um,
Kelly, they lost both game. They lost game six as well.
oh wow. Who are they
Yeah,
playing? The Celtics?
yeah.
Yeah. I hear Boston's probably gonna run away with it, but I don't. I listen to weird people, so I could be wrong. Um,
So yeah, I was gonna ask you about what your radio background was like because I did a bit of radio back when I was in college.
oh yeah. Yeah, that was around the time I was in college too. It's like early '90s. In I was in North Mississippi, going to Mississippi State. Go Bulldogs! Wait a minute, I got this. Da, 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 da. Anyway, so I was in school when they made it to the Final Four, and they played Syracuse, and they lost. I think by like 8 points or something. I was very sad, but. Uh, Yeah, I started off at this top 40 station, and early '90s top 40. Uh, eh, but I wasn't there too long, and I ended up working at this classic rock station across town, and I just fell in love with radio then because I was playing like music I grew up with, and I love rock and roll. And this was also around the same time that what they call the grunge music or alternative music, which now it's just rock music, just like everything else. So we were playing some of that new stuff on Wednesday nights, like Nirvana and Soundgarden, stuff like that. And it paid crap. It was just like awful, awful pay, but it was such a great job. It was one of the best jobs I ever had. And I worked a little bit at the college radio station too. So and then I ended up working at TV stations from doing like news and stuff like that. So I miss radio. I really do. It was so much fun. You know.
Yeah, that's mainly what I did for my radio experience was being able to work at college radio station. Got to co-host on some sports talk radio weekly. Then did a lot of MSU Denver broadcast. That's Metropolitan State University of Denver. For those who aren't familiar, got to
Nice.
call mainly got to do play-by-play on like soccer, softball, and baseball, and got to call a couple women's basketball games towards the end of the season. But I didn't get to stay on as long as I would have liked. My job wasn't flexible enough.
Right. You got to eat.
Yeah,
So you got to prioritize. So you did mostly like sports stuff, right? You
yeah.
did sports radio. Okay. Right on. Um, there was one I actually got to call. It was TV and radio in Starkville, Mississippi. It was we got to start call Starkville High School football games. The guy that my program director at the rock station, he was the play-by-play guy, and I was the color commentary, which was kind of ridiculous because at that time I had first off I had no clue about anything about Starkville High School football team. I was more of a pro guy. I watched the pro game more than anything. Like I said, I'm a big Saints fan, and so I just kind of faked it. So I had the sheet with the numbers on it, with their names on there, and I was like, yeah, number 36 up the middle there. Of course, Starkville's got a great defense. They had a great defense, so it wasn't a lie. It's just that's all I basically said all the time was, Starkville's got a great defense. Back to you.
Would you like to answer this? Start off by answering this question from Kelly first. The origins of
Oregon,
your
the Nug Life Comrade.
your name.
Wait, are you Nug Life Comrade?
Yeah, I pretty much picked a name to bridge both like Nuggets fandom
Oh, okay. All right. I was about to
then
say, War
left
Deer.
one.
Yeah. So that's my name. Warren is my first name. Hence Uncle Warren. And Deer is my last name is Dearman, but like you're writing a letter to man, Dearman, no antlers. But I'd have to spell it. I'd have to say no antlers to my teachers, who they inevitably, when they'd write my name down, it'd always be Deer. So I said I'm going to go with it, and I started my own production company called War Deer Entertainment with the deer, and it's a deer with an eye patch, and the other eye is red because he's a bit of a drinker, and then there's flames behind him, like he's in the heart of battle, right? The flames of war. So actually, Uncle Warren was my radio name. Going back to that other question, because my the same guy, my program director, said, "Well, you know, use your real name. Do you want to you want to make up a radio name? What are you gonna do?" And my biggest claim to fame was being like uncle to 3 nephews and a niece, and I was really proud of that. I knew I was never going to be a dad because I knew I was going to suck at it, but I'm pretty
Same
kick
here.
ass as an uncle, right?
Yeah.
Solidarity, brother. So Uncle Warren it was, and then recently, well, in the last year or so, when I started Extra Bulla, I said, well, I'll just go by that again. Bring it back after 30 years and, you know, fly it up the flagpole, see if anybody salutes, that kind of thing.
I've got an Uncle Drew. You remember that movie Uncle Drew? I got an Uncle Drew hat.
Uncle Drew?
Yeah.
There was a movie. I remember Uncle Buck, but I don't
It
remember
was
Uncle
that
Drew. Who was
movie, the Kyrie Irving movie, where he was the old man on the basketball court.
oh, wait a minute. I've heard of that. That was and weren't there like 2 other players who were like old men too?
Yeah, it was like a team of just guys being old.
Was Kevin Hart in that? No, he wasn't in that, was he?
I don't think so.
It was like some comedian was in that too. Um, I don't know, but I know what you're talking about now, because at the time I was like, "This is some bizarre shit. What is this? What the hell is this?" I like stuff like that that makes you scratch your head. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, but I'll add another answer to that. Add on to my answer is with my display name on Twitter, I like to combine like leftist terms and nuggets, so that's why my current display name to Marxist Cousins. Then previously it was Nikola Tankage because of Tankies. Then before that was Bolshevik, the former Nuggets player Bol. So that was an easy tie-in on that. But now
Wait,
that we,
was that Manute Bowles' kid?
yes, that is his son.
Yeah, Manute Bowl. I remember a story about Manute Bowl. He tried to slam dunk a ball and he ended up chipping a tooth on the rim or something like that, something crazy because he was so tall. He was like tall and skinny. He looked like he was just like this wide. He was like, a mile tall. I remember when he came into the league too. That was crazy. So that's his kid. Bo
Yes,
Bowl. Bo Bowl?
Bol.
Bowl Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay. Right
The
on.
difference
I
is
like
his
that.
son's a bit more like uh he has a bit more ball handling skill, but he has that similar type of wireliness that he's not very strong.
Is he tall like his dad too?
7'2".
Yeah, that's pretty tall. I thought Nug was a weed reference. It is a weed reference in some cultures.
Yeah. But now that we've
Oh.
eased our way into this, now that we can get into the main topic for tonight, which is this recent Buffalo shooting that happened over the weekend.
Mm.
And we'll go over some of the basic details first before we uh, tear apart some of the more viral tweets that happened.
Right on.
A white 18-year-old gunman allegedly carried out a racist attack at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, Saturday, killing, 13 now, and injuring three others. According to authorities, almost all victims were black. The suspect who streamed the mass shooting is believed to be the author of a screed posted online detailing his white supremacist ideologies and his plan to attack a black community in New York. What else we know. Shooter faces life in prison with has been charged with first degree murder. If convicted, he would face a maximum life sentence without parole. Officials have said they are investigating the mass shooting as a racially motivated hate crime and are also considering terrorism charge. Separately, the FBI is investigating the shooting as both a hate crime and racially motivated violent extremism. The evidence we have covered so far makes no mistake this is absolute racist hate crime that will be prosecuted as a hate crime. This is someone who has hate in their heart, soul, and mind, said Buffalo Police Commissioner Joseph Gramalia. Oh man, it's amazing how some of these articles get so repetitive with the wording. And there's a list of the victims here: Aaron Salter, Ruth Whitfield, Pearlie Young, Catherine Cat Massey, Hayward Patterson, Celestine Cheney, Roberta Dreary, Margus D. Morrison, Andre McNeil, Geraldine Talley, Zaire Goodman, Jennifer Warrington, Christopher Braid. And a quick little detail of the attack: the alleged gunman drove more than 200 miles from his small town of Conklin and arrived in East Buffalo the day before the attack to conduct reconnaissance on the grocery store, police said. The shooting at Tops Friendly Market began at 2:30 p.m. Eastern in a parking lot outside the store, located in a predominantly black neighborhood 3 miles away from downtown. The gunman stepped out of his car wearing tactical gear and opened fire assault style rifle, shooting four people. Three of those later died. After the gunman worked his way in the store, the security guard Aaron Salter attempted to stop the shooter by firing his gun, but the gunman's body armor shielded him from the bullet. The suspect then shot and killed Salter. The suspect was eventually confronted by police at the front of the store. He briefly pointed out the rifle at his neck before police persuaded him to drop his guns and surrender. The gunman live streamed the attack on the platform Twitch. The company told NPR the stream was shut down less than 2 minutes after the violence began, the company said. So, Warren, what were your initial thoughts on this shooting when you first heard the details unfold?
Well, I mean, we've come to learn that there's been almost 200 of these kinds of shootings this year already, right? And it's we're just here in the middle of May. Um, I found it odd that when they reported this, usually like whenever there's a mass shooting or something like that, you'll hear cries from people who are politicians or whoever will be talking about gun control, right? Um, but not this time around. Instead, I believe they were talking about how he was talking about white replacement theory or something to that effect. Um, that's I guess something that Tucker Carlson has discussed on his show. So I was hearing calls for censorship for Tucker Carlson, which I thought this was odd. That why would they do that now? But we've been seeing a lot of censorship from cries for censorship. I think, and I think it may say so later in the article that Kathy Hochul, the governor of the state, she was calling upon social media platforms and stuff to knock out this misinformation or to censor these people talking about this white replacement theory. Um, I don't know. It just seems to me like I've grown very cynical over the last couple of years, and I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't some sort of like he was groomed by the FBI or something to do this in order to get more censorship going. I don't know if they're going after Tucker Carlson like specifically or just the right wing. I mean, this coming November is going to be the midterms, and the Democrats are not expected to do well at all. So, um, maybe like I said, maybe it's a cynical view, but I wouldn't be surprised if this kid was some sort of op. I read the manifesto. It didn't sound like the words of an 18-year-old kid, although he's fairly intelligent. So it could be, but I'm just skeptical. I smell a rat with all this. It just doesn't seem like everything doesn't seem to be what it appears to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting how this time, yeah, you didn't hear the common thoughts and prayers statement that you usually get a lot, and the uh, overwhelming theme of gun control, as you said, that hasn't been a theme that you've heard quite as much compared to the other high profile shootings that we have had over the past several years, including, I think this was one of the first high profile shootings that we've had since like last year when one happened at uh, King Supers in Boulder that you were referencing before the show,
Mm,
that you knew someone in Boulder, Warren.
yeah.
Now we'll get,
And that what I was going to say, that wasn't the only shooting that day either. There was one in California, and I think one in Texas too,
yeah,
over the
those,
weekend too.
yeah, I know. I noticed someone pointed out some California shooting that was considered an Asian hate crime, which did not get uh, quite the attention that it didn't get the ample attention that it should have gotten either. But now we'll get
Right.
into some of the sources for this, so that gets cited here for the uh, inspiration for the attack. The suspected gunman allegedly published a 180-page document to the anonymous message board 4chan before carrying out the attack. The pages repeat a series of white supremacist ideologies, including a racist conspiracy theory known as the Great Replacement, in an attempt to justify his plan to target and murder African Americans. The screed's author, who has the same name as the suspected shooter, says extreme boredom during the pandemic led to his radicalization. The gunman who carried out the massacre of 51 people at two New Zealand mosques in 2019 promoted the same racist theory. The gunman used a Bushmaster AR-15 style assault rifle in the Buffalo shooting with an attachable high-capacity magazine, a banned device in New York, meaning it was illegally purchased or illegally transported across state lines, said Governor Hochul. Police also recovered a second rifle and a handgun from his car. The suspect had threatened a shooting at his high school last year. He was subsequently sent to a hospital for a mental health evaluation that lasted a day and a half.
Mm,
So, what do you
yeah.
think now, especially with that last detail about how he had planned another shooting in the past, and all that happens is he ends up being evaluated for only a day and a half?
Well, I mean, like I said, I smell an op. I think, but I'm not saying that this kid is totally innocent, that he was totally manipulated by the feds. I do believe what these the feds do is they take people who have these notions, who have this hatred, uh, this bigotry in their heart, and they exploit it, and they get it, just to get them to do things that are what the establishment would prefer them to do in order to create this narrative that allows certain things to take place afterwards, right? So they probably did an investigation long before on this kid, long before the shooting. um, Found out that he had the potential to be this person to do these heinous acts, um, and probably exploited him. I mean, take it like, who is it? The governor of Michigan. That whole plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, and it turns out that it was all cooked up by the FBI. The people, these guys had no intention of kidnapping her, but it was these FBI infiltrators who convinced him to do it. So it's kind of like the tail wagging the dog. That's why I said this could be a similar situation. I mean, it may very well be this could have been something he's been wanting to cook up for a while, but uh, you know, like I say, he's young, he's impressionable. They learned. I would say they learned about this kid and his capabilities, and then they just steered him in that direction. And the day and a half that he was, yeah, that's just kind of like, I don't know, like the it's like, we did this, we checked him out. That's saying that we did something, where it's just like kind of like ran them through, and okay, that's fine. Instead of like intensively, uh getting to know, what was the motives and all this stuff behind, like the real, like, mental motives behind all this stuff. And then if he gets convicted and goes to jail, maybe he goes, maybe his lawyer pleads, insanity or something like that. Who knows? I mean, that's at a later date, but like I said, it smells fishy, especially a day and a half, and that's it. You know.
Uh, I notice a common theme in these big high profile shootings. It's that they want us to trust these state institutions, but how many times have the local FBI and law enforcement let us down because there's usually some type of detail that comes out after these shootings about how the FBI or law enforcement have a chance to prevent the shooting from happening in the past because they ignored a tip from someone on that they were set out to do something like this. So then they also uh, makes people like us question the purpose of these institutions as opposed to liberals who think that these types of institutions could be reformed. And this is why we continue to see uh, these themes continue to happen. Be, Partly because of we they don't have the right way to counteract this type of uh, extremism. Instead, yeah, you get this happening. Then
Yeah.
I think that Parkland shooting in Florida, I think another thing that came out for it was one of the officers who could have tried to step in and prevent that shooting from getting worse was too afraid to get involved and stood out on the outside. Then I think it was they tried to take them to court, and and then you find out the police are in no legal obligation to protect you.
Yeah. I mean, like, where were the cops? Where were the cops in all this? And now Biden wants states to take the COVID money and give it all to the police. What are you going to give it to the cops for? For watches? so that they can be on time to their posts. I mean, to get them more cars so they can patrol more. I mean, what the hell are they gonna? Why are they giving them more money when they're worth shit right now? You know,
Yeah,
and
then you got so
like,
many people who talk about good the good guy with the gun wins against the bad guy with the gun, but what happens if the supposed good guy with the gun is too afraid to be the good guy with the gun?
yeah, or the bad guy with the gun has Kevlar, and like in that case where the guy shot him, and then he ended up getting killed. You know, you know, talk about the FBI. Uh, I think they are told to allow things to happen to serve certain purposes for certain higher ups. You know, it's like people wonder why the cops and even the FBI are just so terrible at their jobs. I think they're good at their jobs. It's just we know we assume that their jobs are to protect us when it's really to protect the elites, and it's to protect property, and it's to protect uh you know, the 1% of society. Us, nah. You know, we could get shot up at a grocery store in Buffalo. That's fine, as long as that shooting and those murders send a message, and allow a narrative to develop to where other things like censorship can happen. Yeah, like you said, like where's the, you know, the thoughts and prayers? You didn't see the thoughts and prayers. They're like calling for the head of a host of a TV show who didn't even tell. He was just, he talks about. I'm not defending Tucker Carlson. I don't even really watch his show or anything. But what I do know is that he didn't tell people to go out there and shoot people. All right. You want to go after, if somebody does that, it's like yelling fire in a theater. You're going to do that. Yeah. Then you need to be held accountable for it. But it's just talking about this kind of thing. It may be dumb, but it's just talk. Right. And when talk leads to action, you know, you have to hold the person who did the action accountable, not the person they got the talk from. You know what I'm saying? And I think there's too much of that. That's why we're getting so much censorship in this country, is because that um, people can't handle what they hear. They can't handle what they hear, and they get they're too sensitive to it. And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm old school. You gotta grow some thick skin, brother. You know what I mean? The real shit's coming down the pike, and we got to be ready for that stuff. And we can't have all this ultra sensitivity like this, and if we're going to deal with it as a society, you know, I know I sound like an asshole, but you know, I think that's what we got to do, right? I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I noticed that there's a pretty big split between like a left that is that really tries to be really politically correct, and there's another part of the left who isn't as politically correct, or they understand why some people aren't going to be as politically correct, but they know that they still got them in agreement on pretty much just about every issue, and know that they're still worth working with to try to achieve some type of change.
Yeah, I mean, think of the three things in the past 6 years that broke everybody's brains. First, it was RussiaGate, that broke brains. Then it was the Big C. No, that was Trump. He broke brains. Then the Big C. So that's your trinity of brain breaking right there. And if you manage to come out of all that with your sanity intact, you know, you should play the lottery, because you've got some. Either you got some pretty good genetics, and or you know, like me, I'm Gen X, right? Our generation was like after the boomers. The boomers, for the most part, not every boomer, obviously, but as a generation, they were the last ones to have any sort of success as a generation, right? Then Gen X and the millennials came along, and Gen Z and whatever's after that. They're the ones that, you know, it's like, oh, you got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Like, well, you didn't have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps because everything was cheap back then, and now everything is so expensive. Um, you know, so like people like me, we're, we don't have time for like super sensitivity. There's being sensitive to people that truly need it, but then there's sensitivity that's just like being cultivated in order to control people and to keep certain people from speaking the truth about things, because you're just being, that's misinformation, you're being insensitive, and it's like, no, we're telling the truth and we're just being blunt about it. And I think that's starting to go the way of the dodo, and I hope not, but unfortunately I think that's what we're seeing today.
Yeah, now it's time to get into another aspect of the shooting and the connections that the shooter had, the connections that are to the Azov battalion, the Nazi fighters that are currently in Ukraine, and one liberal, uh, popular liberal account twisting herself through pretzels to try to say that it's not the same. So I'm not even sure this is this woman's real name, but we'll just go with Caroline. In case there were any questions about this Russian disinformation, Russian government and state media accounts are now pushing the false narrative connecting the Buffalo shooter to Ukraine. And she has a few photos here. A tweet from the Russia and RSA account, Embassy of Russia. And in this photo, you'll see the similarities between the shooter and the symbol on the Azov battalion. And this other Russian government official, Dmitry Polanski.
Mm.
And that one as well. Then that Polanski guy also retweeted Benjamin Norton showing people the connections between the Azov battalion with that Black Sun Nazi symbol, which happens to be used. Jump down to the next tweet. This explains a lot about the coordinated nature of the attacks of harassment, threats against me for refuting that narrative. Then the tweet on the screen, I have no doubt that our Western partners will try to downplay the fact that Azov, Nazis, and Buffalo share the same ideology. The awkward fact doesn't fit in their narrative that there are no Nazis in Ukraine. Next tweet, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised Russia would send its online brigade to harass and threaten a pregnant woman, given what they've done in Ukraine. So, probably a story justifying the narrative that Caroline is trying to push. Also worth noting that Russia's UN rep used the same unique phrasing as Aaron Mate. 7 hours after Aaron posted this tweet, I have a hard time believing this was a coincidence given the additional context that Aaron was quote tweeting me and Polanski was quote tweeting a reply to me. Here's a tweet from Mate. I know it's awkward, but if Democrats are going to insist on using Ukraine for a proxy war against Russia, they're going to have to own the fact that they're aligning with neo Nazis like Ukraine's Azov battalion, which uses the same white supremacist symbol. And Polanski, I have no doubt that our Western. I already read that tweet, but even when the buzzsaw is awkward, it's still a major buzzsaw. So, what did you think of
Mm.
that tweet thread from this woman, Caroline?
Well, people are so hell bent to protect Ukraine, right? Because they've been, like I said, it's the brain breaking started with RussiaGate, right? This all goes back to uh, when Julian Assange exposed Hillary Clinton's emails, uh, talking about how she was trying to set up Trump to be her opponent, and how she was, the Pied Piper strategy and all that. It goes way back to like like the 2013, 14, whenever that came, or maybe it was 2015 when it came out, right before the election. And people, and then she lost the election. And so people hated Trump. And so by proxy, they also hated Russia because they, for some reason where there's no proof whatsoever, they believe that Russia had something to do with her losing. Right. So now fast forward to 2022, and Russia invades Ukraine to try to denazi, that's their words, denazify Ukraine. And the funny thing is that we were, they were talking before all this happened. There were a lot of journalists and whatnot talking about how there were Nazi, that Nazi battalion in Ukraine, and there were Nazis there. And now all of a sudden, a lot of these same people are like, "Oh no, this, it's just they're just nationalists. They're just trying to defend their country." And I think a lot of these narratives, I keep saying narratives because a lot of groups try to push these narratives because a lot of times they're paid ops. They're paid to push these narratives. He had a black sun logo on his chest, and he was also didn't he also he was emulating what the it was in Australia, and it was at Christchurch, I believe. There was that
the
mass
New
shooting
Zealand
there.
shooter.
It was New Zealand, yeah, and how he was inspired by that too. Who that guy was also a Nazi sympathizer too. So it's like people don't want to know that they've been supporting a country that harbors Nazis. Now people can think what they want about Zelensky. I say he's a coward, and he's letting this Nazi battalion run Ukraine, and then the United States on the other side, because they want to take Russia out so bad, they're allowing this to happen and will strike down any kind of information that comes out of there. I don't know how familiar you are with Gonzalo Lira, but he was reporting out of there all the fake news that was coming out of there. Like they were saying there were Russian tanks were getting blown up when there were really Ukraine tanks, and how all this information that Ukraine is winning the war, we just got to keep giving them more weapons, and they were just getting their asses handed to them. They had what was the ones, was it Maripol that they cornered them, and they ceased. What do they? Every mainstream media outlet was saying they ceased military action. It's like, no, they surrendered, but they won't say surrendered because that weakens the whole plot of why we're funding Ukraine and all this stuff. And it's just, people just either they're complicit and they want this shit to happen, or they're just like so ashamed that they actually believed in it that they have to stick with that belief, because the alternative is just, it will break their brain completely,
And we've seen a big theme of liberals in the Biden era have transitioned to being essentially blue fascist, and the fact that you're in this example with the Azov battalion is, it shows their hypocrisy of how they're supposed to be they pose themselves to be this non-racist ally, but they are really only fear mongering about like the random like the Proud Boys, KKK types. But when it comes to like the people in power in the suits who enable the white supremacist structure to exist, they don't have much to say for those people. They consider those normal, so to speak. And I think now that's a good point to transition into a tweet thread from Jordan Sheraton, who pretty much is telling us not to walk and chew gum on this issue.
Yeah, that's It's too much with the team sports. That's another thing too. It's people are so trapped in this left right mindset. It's like my team has to be on top at any cost. Now it's at any cost. If it has to, we got to cozy up to Nazis. So be it. At least it ain't Trump. Capital letter, small letter, capital letter, small letter. You know how that works.
Yeah, let's go over this thread from Jordan Sheraton, who has really been on a roll for how bad his political analysis has been for
Yeah.
a good, to be genuous, a good year or so, even though it really could have been longer. Threat,
Yeah.
despite disingenuous right wingers and pseudo leftists trying to absolve Tucker Carlson in the aftermath of the Buffalo shooting on the narrow point, he's not directly responsible. The importance of criticizing him isn't about whether he is directly responsible. So I think for this, I think it's better to go uh, take this apart tweet by tweet. So, what do you have to say about this first one?
Well, I'm not saying that Tucker Carlson is directly responsible, but let's shit on him anyway. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like he's trying to make Tucker Carlson the focal point. When he in the same damn tweet, he says that's not the point, but the point he's trying to make it the point. Um, I don't know. I have my opinions about Jordan since he kind of hung his hat on Nina Turner and she shit the bed. It's like you said. His takes are leave something to be desired. He's a great uh, investigative journalist, or at least he was, and he should have just stuck with that because his opinions are just like some shit liberty crap, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd
Uh,
agree. That was hard to listen to. So much of the left try to tell us to vote for Biden, but
yeah.
let me get to this point about how so often during the Trump era we constantly see liberals get hashtags to try to get Fox News personalities fired, like Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, and what do they exactly think they're going to accomplish with that? Do you do these liberals not know how to think ahead? I mean, do they think that there isn't someone else waiting in the wings to take over and to be elevated to the next big star of Fox News? Or
Well, they just
even if you did cancel the whole damn network, do you think that all these people that just lost jobs are just going to sit around and not be involved in right wing media anymore?
yeah. I mean, yeah. You're right. Well, they should have learned when they censored Alex Jones, right? Uh, think what you will about Alex Jones. He shouldn't have been censored, and people who are for free speech um, were screaming at the top of their lungs at the time. Look, if you do this, this is going to open the door, and then there's going to be more and more censorship. And sure enough, you started seeing more people on the opposite side of the spectrum from Alex Jones who were getting censored and booted off of social media. And that's the thing. It's like we can't censor people that are just talking, right? If you're inciting violence, yeah, then you have to do something about that. But to make it sound like someone's inciting violence when they're not, in order to provoke more censorship, is just, that you hear about the slippery slope. I mean, that is like oil all over that slope. And that slope is like a straight wall, because as soon as you start censoring one, then the floodgates are going to open and more censorship. And I don't think the censorship's being is done yet. Like I said, that the shooting in Buffalo, uh, they're trying to do more censorship because of that. And like I said, some of them are complicit, Some of them want the censorship because they don't like what they're hearing, and they are unwilling to engage with people in conversation about it. And some people are just stupid and just go along with it because yay team blue. Either both of those scenarios are disturbing and kind of scary, to be honest with you.
Let's go to this comment real quick from WCSN. Can we at least agree that Fox News is more honest than the rest of mainstream media as they are registered as an entertainment company while the others are news? Uh, I guess until you have to challenge them in court, like Rachel Maddow recently got challenged in court and had to admit that they're not really true news.
Yeah, it sure was, right? They're entertainment, right? Um, and that's how they get away with, like, but they don't claim to be entertainers when they're saying that shit, though, do they? They try to come off as competent, trustworthy journalists and news people until they get to court, and then it's like, nope, I'm just a circus clown. Da, 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 da. Please don't take money from me or put me in jail and shit, that kind of thing. So it's all a game. It's all stupid. Rush Limbaugh was the same way. Rush Limbaugh, they've been trying to get Rush Limbaugh off the air for years, and he had to admit that it's just entertainment. I'm just an entertainer. That's it. But that even that's not enough. People still think these entertainers are actual fight for the people journalists, truth tellers, and they're not. They're doing it for their corporate masters to make that unholy dollar, you know.
Let's go to the next couple tweets. From the perspective of someone who has traveled America for 7 years and likely covered over 100 right wing rallies and events, from Trump rallies to Proud Boys to right wing counter protests, and many more, you would have to be either willfully blind or a willful liar not to acknowledge there is an exploding white supremacist movement in America that is growing for many reasons: generational racism and bigotry inherited within families, radicalization bred from economic frustration and desperation. So, what do you think of that part next?
Well, I mean, I've seen some of the people he's interviewed, and it isn't a random sample either. It just seems to me Jordan is disingenuous. He tries to find the most circus clownish people at these Trump rallies that he can to prove his point. I will say though, while the racial aspect is definitely there, it's being spurred on by economic frustration too, and that's not just Trump people. That's everybody. I mean, economic frustration can take some sort of racist aspect about yourself and amplify it. Especially if someone is provoking that in you too, like, oh, these black people are to blame for why you're not making enough money. You should do something about it. You got these people who have their own motives and agendas that are like trying to stoke this in people. But I mean, when you have a bad economy, shit goes down. Your crime goes up immensely. um Prices go up. I mean, just like a whole plethora of bad things happen at the same time. But for him to say that, oh, he's traveled America for 7 years and covered these right-wing rallies, like I said, I've seen who he talks to, and it doesn't seem like he's trying to get a wide sampling of people. Because I mean, Trump voters are not a monolith. They're not all the same kinds of people. I know people down south who are very who aren't racist. They're very loving and kind. They like some of Trump's economic policies, right? Um, and are willing to overlook some of the misogyny and stuff like that for the quote unquote greater good that he might be able to provide. I personally think Trump's a piece of crap. He's always been just this rich kid. His father was very successful and loaned him millions and millions of dollars to get started. So he didn't start from scratch. None of these millionaires and billionaires started from scratch. They had some sort of big financial help along the way. But to say that all these trumpeters are the same, that's just using a broad brush to try and prove a point for yourself, when in reality it's more complicated than that.
Yes, I would agree that there's a lot of factors at play here. I think that social media has uh, glorified uh, this white supremacy in a way that you used to not be able to easily access it in the past, for one. So that's why it's easy to make this statement about how white supremacy is a growing issue in the United States. But the next part is what I think this thread is really doing in a big way here. It's a lot like how the sock Dems, the synthetic left, they hedge on a lot of foreign policy, and that's if you're being generous. Then the fact that what we can tell about them is they have this thing where they care way more about domestic policy and decide that foreign policy doesn't mean as much, and they are often uh, upset at people who do take foreign policy extremely seriously in their decision to whether to support a politician or not. And what this implies to me in a way is the fact that Jordan doesn't think that international white supremacy matters as much as the white supremacy that's happening here, when, like many other issues that we have, this is all connected. Like with the imperialism in the police state, if you're not coming out against imperialism as hard as you are the police state, then you're effectively not going to be able to make much ground if you're only focusing on the issues of the police state here. Because if you're more focused on foreign policy, I could bet you're going to make more. That's going to lead to more progress on challenging the police state, even if you're like some libertarian voice who isn't really that involved in that aspect of it. And I think that's the bad thing about what people from Jordan's side of the left often imply when they get upset at the focus on foreign issues that are very much tied into what's going on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if we don't think globally now, we have to. All our jobs are out there. All the jobs, NAFTA gave those jobs away. So if we're not thinking globally about issues that are going on in other countries that people are paying attention to, us going into countries like we just went into, what was this? Was it Somalia? We just went
Yep, just
into.
went back into Somalia.
Come on, I mean, like, you know, we're not spreading democracy. I had a friend. I lost a friend on Facebook a few years back who claimed, and she was a proclaimed lefty, right? And she said, "Well, we have to be the world's police." I said, "No, we don't. We don't have to be the world's police. We have the largest military, but even if we cut the military budget in half, we'd still have more in like the top three countries out there, and you can have the biggest military in the world if you want, but if a nuke hits, what good is that military going to do, right? We're all fucked, I guess, in that respect. If we don't pay attention to what's going on in the world, and especially what we as the United States are doing in the world, and then we talk about shit that's going on here, like, where do you think they're getting the inspiration? Where do you think the police get the weapons from? They get them from the military. You know, it's
Israel.
it's very frustrating.
And to your comment, Kelly, there were only 386 people that voted in the Somalian presidential election. What's up with that? I will say that for my next show, we'll get more in depth on Somalia. So if you stick in till the end, I'll tell you the next guest. But let's get into the next couple tweets from Jordan. I interviewed many Trump supporters whose jobs are sent offshore by both Democrats and Republicans. Most of all, the increase of partisan right wing media like Fox News, Breitbart, and many others. As income equality worsens, American standard of living worsens. Folks are forced to work longer hours for less pay, benefits, or 2 to 3 jobs. There is fertile ground by faux populists like Tucker Carlson and Trump to distract and hoodwink Americans that there were material conditions are being worsened by an invasion, word used by Tucker, of immigrants rather than the real culprit. How about your thoughts on that next?
Well, once again, he's trying to pin some sort of blame on Tucker Carlson and Trump. Um, are they? I mean, I'm not saying that they're not trying to hoodwink Americans, but Tucker Carlson and Trump are not they're the what is it they said about Trump? They said he's the byproduct of the problem. He's not the source of the problem, right? The source of the problem is income inequality. I mean, like he stated before, he's people working for less pay and no benefits, 2 or 3 jobs. That instead of like trying to point his finger at Tucker Carlson and Trump, who are con men in their own rights for different things. I mean, yeah, it was the saying, the devil mixes truth with his lies, right? So they do tell the truth sometimes in order for them to benefit from that with viewers, and with Trump it would be votes, but they're not the source of the problem. It's if people had decent jobs where they were making money that they could save, that if they were putting food on the table, they had a house to live in that wasn't going to be taken away by the bank, if they could have health care that wasn't going to bankrupt them, then people wouldn't be listening to Tucker Carlson and Trump. They wouldn't listen to them. But you have to you got to get to the root of the problem. And Tucker Carlson and Trump they're the termites. Uh, they're like termites on the rotten wood. The wood was rotten in the first place, right? And the termites are just coming in to feed off of the rotten wood. And I don't know if that's a thing. Maybe termites is not a good example, but you know what I'm saying. Like I said, it's already rotten, and now you have like buzzards. Buzzards didn't kill the wildebeest out in the outback, right? But they're feeding off the carcass. That's what Tucker and Trump are. They feed off the carcass. Something else killed that animal, and that's what you got to get to the root of. You know what I'm saying? And we're not doing that.
Yeah, we could, if the root issue was actually uh, being addressed here, or the people in power actually tried to do their part to, well, specifically Democrats actually did their part to avoid uh, leading people towards fascism, when instead all the uh, most of these corporate liberals all do is just uh, help facilitate them very close to fascism, and they end up in the position where they are led to these type of voices like Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson, who, by the way, are often very disingenuous in many of their views. There's a few things that are clearly, they do have genuine bad views on. And with Tucker Carlson, it's the major issue is China. That's one where I could tell he is clearly genuine on his dislike for China, the the way he tries to pin problems in this country on immigration. That's another one. Trump was the famous faux populist because you couldn't really tell what he was really for or against, because he would pay a lot of lip service to the populist right and like the establishment Republicans, when in reality he governed more like a establishment Republican. And
Yeah.
even nowadays, when he still does a rally, he sounds like a very watered down version of himself.
Yeah, I think he just wants to stay relevant now. I think what it is, if he runs again in 2024, it would have to take a large outcry of people to demand that he run for president in 2024. And to me, like Trump is a carnival barker. He's going to tell you what you want to hear, and then what you get out of it is just the same old, right? Like you said, he was an establishment Republican. Always look to the actions. I People say, well, this person said this and this person said that. I don't give a fuck what they said. What did they do? What are their actions? The actions speak louder than words. And you look at Trump's actions, you look at Biden's actions, you look at Obama's actions, all the way back to Carter, hell, even before him. All of their actions speak the truth because we see it. We see what they do, and that's what tells us the truth about them, not their words. And that's why I think Jordan is just, I don't know what his deal is. I don't know if he's just stupid or if he's just like just trying to draw up attention to himself because people are leaving him left and right. Um, I don't really care what his deal is the fact that he's trying to do this, point your attention elsewhere. Don't look behind. Don't ignore the man behind the curtain. Let's talk about these fools out here that are just taking advantage of it and not actually instigating the shit themselves. I'm sorry, I'm a bit of a potty mouth.
Oh, no, you're good. I think it's time to get to the next set of tweets here. The politicians and government officials that have sold them out not to immigrants or the replacement demographic coming for legacy Americans, another term Carlson is used as code for white people, but actually by the Democrats and Republican politicians that have sold out and been purchased by corporations and wealthy donors to sell out the interest of Americans in favor of globalization, which is just a fancy term for corporations enriching themselves off the backs of the industrial workers that built America, but that doesn't mean it's all economics. In years of interviewing Trump supporters and right wingers, I have met straight up bigoted, ignorant, and racist people who are not at all influenced by economics. Trump and Tucker have seized on those individuals the same as those economically left behind. But the reason it is important to call out bigots like Tucker Carlson is he is mainstreaming the preying on Americans' minds by wrapping them in a bubble wrap of fear of invasion and then being replaced by fear mongering that legacy Americans, i.e., white Americans, are under attack, whether Buffalo shooter explicitly mentioned Carlson or not isn't the point. The most watched cable news stars consistently pushing white supremacy creds with a wink and nod that it's not about race. Carlson's creeds are over 4chan, Daily Stormer, and other white wing sewers. So you've spent some time in Mississippi, Warren. So what I'm going to ask you is, how much do people in those type of areas fear no longer being the majority race in this country, since current projections have it that Hispanics will be the majority by about 2050?
Um, I'd say it's probably the percentage is about the same as it is in other like rural areas around the country. I mean, the South is not they don't have this on lockdown. They're here in New York. There are plenty of racists in New York who fear the same thing, and not out in the sticks either. We're talking about like Long Island, which is right there next to New York City. Staten Island, it's a borough of New York City. There's a lot of people down there who are very, that's like Trump Island right there. Parts of Jersey too, close to the city. and majority of them are like either cops or they're related to cops, and the cops who don't even live in the areas that they patrol. So saying that that these they're taking advantage of people's fear and whatnot. I would say, like, when I lived in Mississippi, I'll just give you my experience. When I lived in Mississippi, I knew people who were just flat out racist, and they were just the most ignorant people you ever want to meet. And then I met people who were not racist, and uh, they were genuinely intelligent people, right? Um, and I think that's the thing. It's like, if you talk to some of these racist Trump voters, like I said, it goes back to getting to the root of the problem. Where did they get this? Where did they get this hatred from? Is this a generational thing? Um, you could sit down with some of them, not all of them, but you could sit down with some of them and say, look, you're being played. This hatred that you have, that you learned from somewhere, whether it's from your parents, your grandparents, your friends, or your community or whatever, this is learned behavior. People are not racist right out of the womb. They learn this shit, and they learn it from somebody. And if you can get in there and you can deprogram them and say, look, you know, this black person is not going to replace you. This Chinese person, this Hispanic person, whatever, this non-white person is not going to replace you, and here's why. And you're willing to sit down and talk with people like that, I would say probably 6 to 7 times out of 10, they'll say, "Oh, well, I've been misled. Um, I've been misled this whole time." And especially if you're coming from a place where you have no, like, for me, example, I could probably get away with it because I have no loyalty to either one of these parties. In fact, I don't think we should have political parties at all. I think everybody who runs for office should be an independent candidate. Not that I believe in electoral politics anymore. I believe we should direct action and mutual aid is the way to go, and then the real leaders, will come out of those direct actions. And when you tell people, look, I'm not trying to push any kind of politics on you. I'm giving it to you straight for somebody who loves you and cares about you, then more often than not, they're going to listen, and they're probably going to change their tune. I mean, look at what Fred Hampton did with the KKK. He said, look, you can't be in the KKK if you want to join with us. You need to renounce that bigoted shit that you were taught. And a lot of them did, because the greater good was to help everybody in society, not just a select few. And and I don't think Jordan takes that into account. He just thinks everybody's just stubborn, are just going to be set in their ways, and just don't even bother talking to them. They're just racists, and you can't reform them. You can't help them. When in reality, you definitely can, because I've done that. I've a couple of times, at least in my life, that I can remember talking to people like that. I mean, were they 100% not racist after that? Probably not. But I mean, it's almost like a trauma. Trauma doesn't go away overnight. It takes a while for people to get out of this, especially if they know they're in as deep a shit as their neighbor is, who may not be white, that kind of thing. You find camaraderie in these societal ills that are happening to all of us. And once you realize you're in the same boat with everybody, you start to think differently. But you have to be brought out of that and get them away from these influences that's been lying to them this whole time.
Yes, and I think it's also important to get into some of the real reasons why the white uh, population is declining. And I think what it comes down to is, I think when you look at the other cultures, like Hispanic culture, Black culture, their culture is still, you're not going to find as many people in those groups who aren't interested in having children. Like, I think the most common group, if you look on a dating app, for example, you'll find that the majority of people who aren't looking to have children are mostly white right now, and I think those are real factors to why the the population is taking a bit of a change and will eventually become a Hispanic majority population and not this whole immigration surge that is really causing the problems here because the United States has a healthy population growth.
You know, I agree with you there because I didn't even think about that from a cultural standpoint because yeah, like the white culture, um, at least not when I was growing up, um, you were pushed to get married and have kids. Amen, Kelly. Right
That's
there
another
with
one of
you.
us.
Right, Kelly is smart and a very very hot lady. That's a package right there. Oof, coming for you, Kelly. You better ditch that man. I'm coming. Um, so no, I'm just kidding. Your man's safe. I ain't got no money. Uh, but you're right. It's like back then there was the culture. There was a culture for white people, especially like Southern Baptists. You need to get married. You need to have me. You need to give me some grandbabies. You gonna give me some grandbabies, right? You know that kind of shit. And now it's like my generation's like we don't give a fuck if you have kids or not. We don't really care. We want you to be happy in this world, and it's happiness is going to be hard to find. So if kids are not in the cards, so be it. Go find your happiness. And you're right, and that makes total sense. That's probably why the white race is shrinking. It's because we don't have that culture telling us to have kids and stuff like that anymore. We used to, but not really these days.
Yeah, so we're adding to the fear mongering of the great replacement theory. Way to go, all of us.
Well, they better learn. Look, ain't nobody telling people not to shit out some kids. Go ahead, man. Let your freak flag fly. I ain't gonna do it. You ain't gonna do it. Yeah, fuck that. I don't need a mini me. I really don't. I mean, I got nephews and nieces, and I got great nephews and nieces, and I'm so proud that my sisters had kids. Um, those kids who some of them are now adults are they're a joy to me. And but I just know I think economics plays into it too. It's like how am I going to raise a kid? I ain't got no money. I can barely take care of myself. How am I going to take care of a little one? You got the hospital bills, and then you got to feed the kids, and you got if the kid gets sick, you got to take them to the doctor. Then you got the education. You got to buy clothes and shit. No, sir. No, thank you. So, better people can do that shit. I want no part of it.
Yeah, I think
you know?
capitalism is definitely going to play a role into increasing the numbers of uh, non-white people not wanting to have kids as well.
Yeah, and they should look at that. That's if these white supremacists want to look to numbers dwindling, then they should become communists and make sure people got roofs over their heads and food to eat and clothing and health care that they ain't got to go broke over like $10,000 ambulance bill. You eliminate all that shit, you probably have like twice the population you got now. But got to save a buck, right? Can't take my money. Ain't gonna take my money, motherfuckers. Ain't gonna take. Well, then, what do you want? Do you want the white race to exist, or do are you going to give up some cash for it? That's pretty much the bottom line, But I don't know. That probably sounded racist too. I didn't mean to. I'm not racist. I like all people. In fact, I moved to New York because of the culture. I moved here because I had heard about the neighborhoods. There was like all kinds of different people. I was like, yeah, I want to move there and I want to experience that. And I get here. By the time I get here, the shit's all gentrified. There's like hipster barber shops charging like $50 for haircuts, and like all the culture has left the neighborhoods because they've been priced out by these greedy landlords and shit. And they can't afford to have stores here because they've been priced out. I mean, gentrification, that's leading to cultural dissemination. It's really just, I hate it. And now I hate living in New York. I plan on leaving hopefully by the end of the year. I don't know where I'm going to go, but it's too expensive and these people are too shit libby for me as far as that's concerned. Sorry, I had to go on a tangent. I apologize. I didn't mean to go off track there. I tend to do
Yeah,
that
you're
sometimes.
good.
My
I think
brain kind of goes wherever it wants to. So,
I
anyway,
think you were
what we
making the point that using their logic against them of the white supremacist of if they really wanted to have that their population be intact, that they would be for a multi diverse coalition against
yeah.
this power structure. But it seems clear that they'd rather just maintain their place in the society and the power structure remain in place. But
They
let's
want to feel like victims because they've been the oppressors for so long. Now they want to feel like the victims. That's not how that shit works. You don't get to be the victim. Um, when you have that what is it called? That affluence in a way. It's you've been white people been on top for so long. Now the mere threat of us not being on top of him. Personally, I'd rather just see somebody smart in charge. I don't give a fuck what color they are. I want somebody smart in charge to do shit. And it's kind of funny because without a commune is the commune comes from community, right? You want a community, but these people don't want a community. These racists, they're like, oh, I don't want anything to do with you, uh, but I want to survive. It's like, well, you have to work with people in order to change the system so that you can survive, right? Otherwise, get to fucking. It's that what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? It's ridiculous. Ugh. I don't know. I was around it too much down south. Uh, Fortunately, not everybody I knew was like that. I knew some really, really smart people who were, who had figured out that racism was dumb and that we all need to work together for the greater good. And there was a lot of people like that. It was only a few that were just like, I don't know.
let's continue on this thread. For folks to claim this has zero bearing on the growing number of white supremacists and conspiracy movement terror, including January 6th, is absurd. People like Carlson don't need to be mentioned in the manifesto, too massively influential in enhancing the growing fear paranoia of immigrants and non whites stealing America from white people. It is high time leftists and contrarians stop making excuses for Tucker Carlson. He knows what exactly he is doing, and it cannot be ignored or normalized. And we'll go down to this photo and read the highlighted part. It's not a pipeline, it's an open sewer, said Chris Steyerwalt, a former Fox News political editor who was fired in 2020 after defending the network's decision to call Arizona for then candidate Joseph R. Biden, who wrote a forthcoming book on how media outlets stoke anger to build audiences. Now that we reached the end of the thread from uh, Sheraton, what were your final thoughts?
Well, that's another thing. Jordan doesn't seem to think that there's election fraud in this country, or if he does, he doesn't think it's significant, and it is significant. If you've watched any of the reporting by Fiorella and Pasta and Johnny from the Convo Couch, you'll see that not only is there election fraud in this country, it is pretty rampant. Um, Hell, the DNC had to go to court. Uh, they were sued and basically admitted that we're a club and we can choose our nominees. We don't need to have elections for the most part. We could just choose who we want. And the court sided with the DNC. They said, "Yeah, you're a private company. The DNC is a company. The RNC is a company. But that's why I want to get rid of political parties as factors in choosing the next leaders that we have because they're all so corrupt and bought and they're all owned by these billionaires and these rich people, these cabals of rich people that want to enact policy that they want, you know? So half the country, half the voters in this country, I read this recently, half the voters in this country don't even consider themselves Democrat or Republican, right? They're either third party or independent. And, and I think that's a strong statement when it comes to that kind of stuff. Um, Jordan is just, he's talking about these people. Like I said, all he does is he talks about these people who take advantage of the situation. Are these honest actors? Probably not. They have their nefarious motives for themselves, but like I said, they're not the root problem. And and in this whole thread, he's just like he's he talks about the root problem, but then he goes on to say, well, we got to blame them too. It's just like saying, you always shit on the Democrats all the time. How come you don't shit on Republicans? Because we know the Republicans. We've known them for years. They never change. They're always the same. And when they're in power, yes, we shit on them too. But they're not in power right now. The Democrats are in power. And the Democrats made all these promises before 2020 in order to get, the Jeff Dunham old man puppet into office, right? They made all these promises, and not only did they break all those promises, they started doing stuff that we didn't want them to do, right? Like this whole Ukraine business, $53 billion at least going to Ukraine during a pandemic that could have been spent in this country to help people here. That probably could have solved homelessness twice, three times, maybe almost three times. But why didn't we do that? Because the Democrats and the Republicans are all the same. So when you shit on the Democrats, you're by proxy shitting on the Republicans too, because they're both the same. And Jordan doesn't want to realize that. He wants when he was like riding the coattails of Nina Turner, who ran as a Democrat. I could understand if she ran as an independent, but she didn't. She was the same shit Libby person. She wanted to be part of the squad. She was saying the same dumb shit that the squad says, and he was going along with it because he's a clout chaser. Jordan's a hack. He is spoiled potential. He could have been somebody. He could have been a really, really good investigative journalist, but instead he turned into this partisan hack who's trying to stoke some sort of controversy and hate towards the wrong people in order for people to pay attention to this pathetic ass. It's just disgusting, you know?
Oh, yeah, I would agree on that part. And I think that uh, one thing that Jordan leaves out is they think that uh, it's just white people that get manipulated to be against immigrants. And as uh, Nick Cruz and Compton J of the Revolutionary Blackout Network often point out, is that black people are also getting uh, manipulated into anti-immigration arguments as well. So this immigration fear-mongering point, it actually gets used against just about all the communities that exist here right now, and not just manipulated against white people, even if that's the one that it gets used. The fear-mongering goes towards the most. And the overall, what Jordan is doing here is, instead of like trying to focus on the first, second, and third biggest problems that could be at hand from this Buffalo shooter, he's like, no, the fourth and fifth and sixth cause are actually the ones more important to focus on. And this is what you often get from people in this sphere of the left, like Jordan is. People who tell you to stop focusing on the big picture and try to go to a smaller part instead. And that's what happens a lot with the push for electoralism. It takes the eyes off of what could be huge direct actions or that spark off, or when they tell people to constantly donate to politicians, that kills a lot of potential upside for mutual aid. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the big
Yep.
problems that we have. Then also, there's a new brand of uh, left where you pretty much agree with everything, like, oh, the top voices in the left are trying to push, but then you take a big issue with a couple of those people and build a brand off it, like the vanguard, so to speak.
Yeah. It's like you jump from one bubble to another, right? You jump from a shit-lib bubble to a progressive bubble, but then you're still in a bubble, right? It's we have to bust these bubbles. I'm not the only one who thinks this. I think we should get rid of like labels. I was on Misty Winston's radio show last week, and we were talking about this, about how labels are easy instant gratification for people to figure who you are as a person, right? So if you tell me you're a leftist, then I'm supposed to think a certain way, like, oh, you mean then you're about this, and this. It's like, no, that's I want you to tell me what you're about. What do you believe in? What don't you believe in? And then I can take that information and process it, and then I'll have a picture of who you are, right? But you say like I'm a progressive, I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative. It's like we've heard these terms over and over again, and all it does is it just pens people in to these bubbles, and they're all like, "Oh, I'm a conservative too. Oh, well, I feel comfortable around you," uh, that kind of thing. When we should be comfortable around each other about shared ideas and stuff like direct actions and mutual aid and stuff like that. I am never ever going to donate to another candidate ever again. I donated to Bernie twice. I want nothing to do with that shit anymore. I'd rather like take that money, buy some food for somebody who's homeless on the street. If I had the money, I'd try and find them a home, but I don't. So the next best thing is at least I could put some food in their belly, at least for a few hours. Hopefully that'll, until something else happens, that kind of thing. And that's, I think, how everybody needs to start thinking. Stop with the labels and start with processing ideas and solutions. Uh, and that tells me who you are, not a label, you know?
Yeah, I would say that too much stock is put into labels, especially when uh, the issue that too many people have in this country is, instead of having what an accurate idea of what a true socialist or communist is, too many people have the caricature of what they think one is from their corporate media until we get past the redefinition stage. Then we just have to work on getting people on issues without the whole label process.
Right. Like if you feel like you're a communist, what makes you a communist? Right? What are the things that you believe in that makes you believe that you're a communist? So instead of telling somebody you're a communist, tell them what you believe. And a lot of times people will say, "Oh, well, that's capitalism." No, 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 no. That's not. No, the you what you think is communism is capitalism, is the oppression, is the like when people hear communism, they think of Stalin and bread lines and stuff like that. But when you actually tell them what you believe and why you believe it, then a lot of times they'll be like, they may not totally change their mind, but they'll be a lot more receptive to it because you're not trying to shove this label at them that they've heard their whole life, that they've misunderstood. We have to work on our communication. We have to be honest with people, and we have to tell them the truth, and we have to be specific about telling them what we believe instead of being lazy and saying, "Oh, I'm a this, I'm a that." And I'm not hating on people who say they're a communist or socialist or whatever. I'm just saying you got to put in a little bit more work if you want to bring more people over to your thinking, and that's what it's going to take.
Yeah. So I got one more quick thing, and this is going to be related to the Ringer, the publication that Bill Simmons is the main face on. They just had Elon Musk for an interview, I believe, last night, and one of their writers on the Ringer did some major bootlicking of Elon Musk. So we
Ugh.
got to show you this real quick.
All right. If you must.
So we'll start with the first tweet from Kevin O'Connor of the Ringer. What a fun NBA off day in Miami, but we didn't get Elon Musk finals prediction. As you can see, the face of him on the video screen and four members of the Ringer interviewing him below. And he responded to this random tweet. I'm going to assume it's someone who's a Elon Musk stan. People saying who should and should not like is so fucking weird. You do you. Then he says, thanks. I can't imagine disliking someone who runs companies that employ some of the smartest and hardest working people in the world creating tech that can make life better, safer, more efficient, and more fun, but each to their own. You do you.
Gross. I love that meme. That's the best. Your boots, sir. Delightful. Will you be polishing it with your tongue tonight, as usual, sir? Yes. That's another thing, man. We gotta stop worshiping billionaires. You're not anybody thinks they're gonna be a billionaire. Let me holler at you for a second. You're not you are you in there? You're not gonna be a billionaire. Okay? Unless your parents are already rich, you're not gonna be a billionaire. Jeff Bezos, parents are already rich. Elon Musk, parents are already rich. Bill Gates, parents are already rich. You see a pattern? Get some rich parents. Then you can become a billionaire, and then people will polish your boots with their tongue. But until then, you need to stop worshiping these billionaires because they got to be billionaires for a reason, and it wasn't because they were kind, generous, nice people who cared about society, right? Am I wrong on that? I don't think I'm wrong on that. Do you think I'm okay? All right. My man Andrew, who doesn't want kids just like me, he knows we're not selfish people, right? we we just want nice things for all our all the peoples around the world, you know? Why can't we do that, you know? Instead of giving billions of and they get tax write-offs too. They don't have to pay any taxes. People like you and me, we got to pay taxes. Uh I saw that too. My lady friend was saying, "Oh yeah, Elon's mother was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. There's going to be people going to be putting that in the spank bank." I was like, "What? Oh no. That's like look, do you remember do you remember that show Futurama?
Yes.
Do you remember do you remember the woman who her name was they called her Mother, and she was like the head of the giant corporation there, and like she always wore the mother suit, like this big frumpy outfit in public, but then when she'd get home she'd unzip it and she's like this skinny chick. That's what reminds me of Elon Musk is Mother from Futurama. I know that was a stretch for a reference, but I had to go there because I like Futurama.
One
So
more other quick thing to your question, Kelly, is uh, the Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition cover from this year is going to be another topic for Friday's show.
yeah, future Kelly, the hell's wrong with you? Looking into the
But
future crimes, Tom
back
Cruise.
to the point at hand, and this is Kevin O'Connor, who, if you went through the quote tweets, I saw a lot of people uh, try to point out the fact that he was a Nikola Jokic voter for the MVP this year. And I was going to say right now, as one of the biggest Nuggets fans that you'll find on the left is I will drag any and all Jokic MVP voters if they're bootlicking for billionaires just like Kevin O'Connor is. I don't care how pro my teams you are. This is, I will oppose your views like this when you're flat out wrong like this because you're just a useful idiot uh, and a propagandist. You're pushing the fairy tale of billionaires being able to be self-made when even the story of Elon Musk in Africa and how he uh, obtained his wealth from there, and we just know that he's had a major advantage in life to get to the point where he is at right now. But now there's a good reply here from Sean right here, a teacher, a supporter of the show, and other good independent media out there. So he posted a photo of this tweet, and I'm going to zoom that in the best I can. So this first tweet is from Ariana Lenarski. Sometimes I think about the time a white guy complained that because he's a white guy, he can't do creative projects anymore. I said, of course you can. Who is stopping you? He sighed and replied, but I won't be celebrated. He was dead serious. And then another guy from the Ringer, name names. Then the person in the replies added Kevin O'Connor. Then Ariana said, it was Kevin, yes.
Oops. But I won't be celebrated. Is that, are we so narcissistic as a country that's the thing? I mean, oh my god, I don't care if nobody celebrates me. I don't even tell people when my birthday is because I don't give. I'll get my own damn cake. You know what I mean? Now when I was a little kid, I liked cake. That was great. But now I ain't no little kid anymore. I get my own damn cake. But some people they have to have that. They have to that need to be loved and uh a lot of times being if they think they're a billionaire that the people are going to love them, you know, they, oh, I'm going to do such great things with it. No, you don't. You ever see these stories of people who win the lottery, they win like millions and millions of dollars and then they're broke a year later because they spent it on some dumb shit. And when they said at the beginning, oh, I'm going to do some good things with this, that's the thing. It's like the more that's the thing, mo money, mo problems. More money, more problems. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people out there that would take a lot of money and do some good with it. I'm just saying those people are unicorns, because once you get in that Scrooge McDuck money pit, you dive off the thing into the swimming pool full of gold coins and start spitting them out. Then you're gonna yeah, then you go start thinking differently. You know what I mean? Actually, Kelly, I'm a Capricorn. I'm a stubborn goat. Uh, but I don't really know how the horoscope stuff works. So I don't know how that stuff works. All I know is I've never had more than $5,000 in my life, and I've had some of the happiest times that I can think of because a lot of those times I've helped people, not necessarily monetarily, but like in other ways. And helping people is is its own reward. You know what I mean? But some people need the money. Some people they feel like they're not going to be anything worth anything, literally, unless they're swimming in a boatload of cash. And I think that is pretty fucking sad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so no wonder why Kevin O'Connor had to go out of his way to deep throat a billionaire. It's because he is so fragile of being a white guy who's afraid to be, he won't be celebrated in society, even though he's the top NBA writer at the Ringer.
For some people it's never enough, and that's the thing. That's one of the reasons why this country sucks is greed. And I'm calling out my Christian friends too, who seem to think that like gay marriage is bad and abortion is bad, but y'all motherfuckers never say nothing about greed, right? Jesus ran out the money changers out of the temple. He said, "Y'all get the fuck out." I mean, I'm paraphrasing. I'm pretty sure Jesus didn't say "get the fuck out," but you know what I mean. He was like, because he's saying greed was bad. Um, it's like a cancer. It really is. Greed is a cancer, but like cancer, like tumors, they can be operated on and they can be removed. You may not be able to get all of it out, but you can get most of it out. And when we do, that's when we're going to do some really, really cool shit, and people, the society's going to rise up and be better across the planet. You know, that's the only way we can do it, right?
Yeah, and I think
Maybe.
that's a good point to close things out on for tonight's show. So, Uncle Warren, do you got anything that you would like to plug?
Um, First off, I want to say thank you for inviting me on. I've seen this show a few times, and you always have some cool guests, and you always have some awesome people in the chat. So please spread the word about the Rochford Files. Like, share, subscribe. We got to have more people like Andrew in this space doing shows like these. Um, so I'll do my part to help spread the word too, brother.
Okay.
Um, as as for me, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, our usual, I do the news on Kerberos Media, the artist formerly known as KRTD, with the lovely and talented Jimmy Sunderland. She was feeling ill today. Hopefully, she'll feel better tomorrow. Thursday night is usually Extra Bulla. I'm not quite sure if we're going to have a show. I don't have a guest lined up yet. And I started, that's on pretty much all the platforms, mostly YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, um, Facebook, Twitter, sometimes Telegram, but Telegram can be a little funky sometimes. And I started doing this new thing where in the middle of the night I do the show like around midnight, and it's just me, and I talk to the chat, and I share Chicken City behind me. Uh, I love my chickens. I miss my chickens. We used to have chickens when I was a kid. Big farm, like decent sized farm. We grew like veggies and fruits, and we had like all kinds of animals and stuff. So I see them chickens. I'm like, oh, chickies! I love them chickies. Anyway, and we usually talk about some bizarre shit on there. You know what I'm talking about. You've been in a couple of those chats, Andrew. I saw you
Yeah.
show up, and then you saw what kind of bizarre shit was going on. You said, "Fuck this, I'm out." And then I don't blame you. It's a little scary. It's an acquired taste. Other than that, you can find me on this. This is my tweeter right here. This is my Twitter because two of my accounts got banned. Otherwise, it's War Deer Entertainment or Extra Bulla on the other stuff. Um, and one more thing, if you don't mind, I do have a new Teespring store. Um, Me and Jimmy put together. It's her artwork. Um, and she did some fantastic work for me on there. You can find it in my link tree / Extra Bulla. Just look for the spring store on there. If you can't afford it, at least just share it around. I understand times are tough. Hell, I can't even afford my own shit. So, hopefully we can make things better so people can start enjoying that kind of stuff. But thank you for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
Oh, yes, you're welcome. And the Kelly hearing my dog Crystal bark in the background
Oh, puppy.
periodically throughout the. I'll
I
have. I'm
know.
maybe on the weekend show. I'll have to pull a Jack Allison and click the StreamYard link on my phone and go downstairs and give Kelly a live look at Crystal.
Crystal should have her own show. You should do a spin-off of the Rochford Files. You could have the Pupford Files or the Crystal Light like that. I don't know. I got nothing.
Maybe if I do a random midnight stream. Oh, hey, Variant. Good to see
Variant,
you come
Queen
in at the end.
Variant. The hot ladies are here. Her and Kelly are my future ex-wives, by the way. So I knew Kelly knew that. I don't know if Eric knew that, but I think Chris might have something to say about that. But
Maybe
we're gonna move to Utah so we can all be married together. So, but no kids. I ain't no more. If you already got kids, that's fine. But you got any more, and you want more, this is not the tap to get that beer out of. Just saying. So, okay, I'm done.
maybe I should do a spin-off to your show and call it the Secret 2 a.m. show, even though I'll still be 2 hours behind that.
Would you do it? Wait, how late do you stay up? How late do you usually stay up? Are you a night owl?
Uh, during the week, like 11, 12, then on the weekends, at least until about 1 or so.
So that like that you're in Denver, so that's what
Yes.
mountain time.
Yep.
So 11. So that'd be 1 o'clock here. Yeah. So you would be in the middle of the night. You'd get the East Coast night owls for sure. So you should look into that. I'll watch it. Just let me
I
know.
mean, we need more people in this media space in the mountain time zone. I mean, all we've really got here is me and David Sirota.
Don't look up. Uh, no. Well, look, man, you got a wide lane then, so there's plenty of room in that preacher's tent. So do you? Well, if I know anybody, I'll let you know, and you can have like a mountain zone alliance, right? Like Mother Abigail in the stand. Everybody go to Colorado. You come see me, you and all your friends up in Colorado with the Colorado nuggets. Delicious weed. Mountain weed's the best.
So, thanks to everyone who came out for tonight's episode of the Rochford Files. And I've been slacking on the uploading to Odyssey and Rumble. I didn't have that good of a weekend, so I didn't even get on back on to upload the Marcus Cage episode to Rumble or Odyssey yet. But I should work on tonight's show and that one uh, just after the stream ends. But and another thing, as usual, like, share the stream, try to bring some new people in. We got a tight knit group already, but it'd be nice to grow that some more. And as for Friday's show, there will be no Thursday show for me this week. I usually do the next show on Thursday, but Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, the guest will be Glory Jones.
Woohoo! Awesome. Love Glory. She's the best.
Yes,
She's
and I
crazy.
look forward to that. We'll talk a lot about the recent developments in Somalia, for one. I'll also ask her about the recent Sports Illustrated bikini model cover reveal that had a lot of people triggered as usual. So, those are a couple examples of the topics for Friday's show. And with that being said, thanks so much to Uncle Warren for appearing on tonight's show. This is Andrew Rochford saying goodbye and good night.
Aki